This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. On this channel, I like to cover a mixture of the big modern games, current underrated games, indies, and especially older retro video games. It's always fun to go back and play something from the past, whether that might be something you played when you were a kid, or something that you're trying out for the first time now. Also, when diving into these older consoles, you honestly don't know what you're gonna find. What I mean by this is, like, from the PS1 and back, it felt like it was the Wild West for all the video games that were available. It wasn't like today, where you could look at the indie market and take a stab here and there and really get the same effect, with seeing interesting, creative, or innovative titles you want to find. For the PS1, you had teams that were the size of small indie studios today, making the latest and greatest games at the time. Most of the time, those favorites from your childhood were made by a group of 10 people in their basement, just trying to get that game into the best possible shape that it could be, and then get it into your hands. If it sold great, then maybe they could develop another title, or even a sequel. Venturing back to this time is exciting, and in many ways as well, it's a much better time in gaming. Sure, you have dated aspects like graphics being of their time, but if done well, the charm they present honestly adds to it. Syphon Filter is one such title that was something I very much enjoyed from my childhood, and has thankfully held up considerably well. I play it today and I'm like, yep, this game is still special, and for all the reasons I remember and even more. As an extra special element, sometimes these games were able to provide fun where the player would find it for themselves, creating new memorable moments, along with allowing for more and maybe even unintended replay value. Something I want to touch on is the messing around and sort of sandbox feel a game can present, either by design or just how certain elements mix together. So for Syphon, there are a handful of bigger stages with infinitely respawning enemies. This means that as a kid, you could use these areas as mini playgrounds, with what seemed to be infinite replay value. For example, the first stage, or at the warehouse, there is an infinite supply of respawning enemies, and in the case of the warehouse, you have two groups fighting each other, making it even more fun. But this is where you can choose to just focus on your objectives and progress with the mission and narrative, or you can take a break from all of that and sort of have a string of really enjoyable moments where you as the player just find the fun, or in Syphon Filter's case, since the game is already fun, you are finding more fun within it. As a kid, I got hours of enjoyment of playing these areas over and over again, just finding new ways to dispatch all the henchmen you would encounter. Syphon, like many games at the time, had a nice array of cheats, so you could drop into any level with all the weapons and just go to town. Maybe you wanted to run around with a grenade launcher or hurl grenades at everyone. It was all up to you. Personally, I found all of this to be a great excuse to get invulnerability turned on and use the taser on anyone I saw. I've spoken about this before, but the taser is easily one of the best weapons within the game. It's a piece of equipment that you are given right out of the gate. You have your silenced pistol, sniper, and then the taser. And then when you look at the entire game, maybe outside of one specific moment, you really could go the entire game without even using it. In some ways, I'm sure this was put into the game because someone was like, you know what would be really fun to have? Something like this for the players to use. It perfectly presents that player empowerment you get with gaming, along with the enjoyable comedy that can come from it. For example, with the taser, you not only kill someone, but they violently herky-jerky move around when they're hit by it, and that by itself is hilarious. But add on the voice acting that accompanies it, along with the cries out in pain, and then you have player-initiated moments of laughter that never gets old. The icing on the cake is that it doesn't end there either, but rather if you hold on long enough, the enemy will be engulfed in fire, as As a child, I never tired of using the taser. It was honestly the thing to use. The game gives you this awesome toy, why would you not want to use it all the time? Plus, back in the day, friends would come over and you would either trade off playing a single player game, or show them a new game you've been playing. And I remember showing people Syphon Filter and featuring the taser as part of it. Now, I have spent most of this video talking about different aspects that relate to finding the fun within a game. This was sort of inspired by a friend's collection video where he discussed a long list of PS1 titles that he had been collecting, and he mentioned several times that back in the day you would rent a game for the weekend, and it would be you and some buddies sometimes finding the fun. Maybe it was going through the game as intended, or maybe you would find moments that were found through just toying around with the mechanics the game provided. This really made me think of Syphon Filter, as it was a title that just grabbed me for its quality. Very enjoyable in what it was trying to do, along with providing plenty of moments where I just created my own pockets of fun. You really don't see stuff like this anymore, at least not regularly within the modern AAA space. Stuff like this is reserved for titles that go under the radar or more indie games. Syphon Filter is something special and a game that holds up very well. Even making this video, it made me think how I should make some follow-ups to this where I touch on areas that make it so special, along with specifically how this title holds up really well. The original Syphon Filter is a game that puts the player within the shoes of a government agent, trying to stop a threat that could affect the world. There's a grayness presented within your own organization, and from a gameplay side of things, you have a mixture of levels with player choice, different options for how to tackle an area, moments where the game gives the player the opportunity to be smart and feel like a super spy as they figure out some of the problem-solving parts, set pieces that have a lot of forward-moving momentum, a story with a likable cast of characters with a very plot-driven narrative, voice acting that, while maybe bad in some areas, it has so much charm that it can be only considered good because of the extra entertainment value it provides, a killer soundtrack that easily ranks as one of the best within the gaming medium. It is fueled by so much energy, and it's hard to not get excited by all this natural awesomeness that it provides. And while there are some cool and important aspects to Syphon, I continue to stand by that finding the fun is one of the many reasons why I still love this title. Yes, you have all the set pieces, stealth moments, boss fights, and more, but then there are those times where you just go into a stage and play around with all the power weapons, enjoy the target lock camera for its cinematic awesomeness, or even just appreciate the violence details that Syphon provides. Sometimes I find in those instances where you are finding the fun, they unintentionally become some of your favorite parts that a player can look back on with a particular game. They are all player created, and as a result feel extra special. Syphon Filter isn't alone in this aspect, as other titles do this very well too, but Syphon Filter for me is where I first remember doing this. Did you experience this with Syphon Filter at all? Have you had this with another game that is near and dear to you? Let me know all of this in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.